Dimansyon is on the air. We say good evening, we say good morning to depending on where, when, and where you're getting this podcast. It's a super podcast for tonight, and we can't wait to get into the topic of Dimansyon. Is a show that is playing five-dimensional chess. We have many dimensions that we cater to in this podcast, and we are not going to talk to them about them tonight because we have a lengthy section that we gotta get to real fast. As a matter of fact, we are going to cut some of the things that we planned so that we can save time, so that we can get into this fascinating topic. So, what we're gonna be doing tonight? We were gonna play our music, our song, but we are not gonna do it tonight. We're just gonna skip it. We're just gonna briefly talk about HCDF. We're not gonna talk about KISKI, and then we're gonna talk about Frank Etienne's funeral for tomorrow, and then we're gonna dive into wokeism, what it is, and how does it affect Haitian Americans, and then we're gonna end with an announcement about a trialing we'll take on Dimension. So we have to go real fast. So let's do that. We are going to skip our typical program so that we can get into the show proper. So let's talk quickly about HCDF. HCDF is it's Haitian Christian Development Fund. That is an organization that has been birthed in the 80s by my friend Jean Thomas in Fondeblanc. Jean Thomas was studying here, studied theology. He was teaching theology in Atlanta, worked for some corporations, met with John Perkins, learned about the three R's of John Perkins philosophy: relocation, redistribution, and reconciliation. Those three R's are John Perkins' philosophy. So Jean Thomas was immersed into that philosophy, and then he decided to go to Haiti and put those three R's into practice. So he did, and then HCDF was birthed. Then he lived there since the 80s. His three sons lived there. His American wife lived there too. As a matter of fact, he was involved into community development. He was involved into waterworks. He was involved into community banking. He was involved into tree planting. He was involved into helping farmers plant well and use modern techniques for agriculture. Doing solar power. He did. One of the biggest thing that he did was he started a school called L'Exode or the Exodus, where his three sons were educated. So it was good enough for them. So therefore, it was a reference school in Fondeblanc. As a matter of fact, people who used to send their kids to Port-au-Prince said, "No, we don't need to do that anymore. Now that we have L'Exode here." And then now L'Exode has 1,500 kids, primary and secondary, and the primary kids are looking for sponsorship. So if you go to the website at hcdf.org, you could click on sponsorship, and you will see those pretty little kids with their uniforms and waiting for somebody to sponsor them. So we invite you to do that. One of the things that we're planning on doing is we want to take people to Fondeblanc. Whenever Haiti becomes more secure, we are going to take people to Fondeblanc to see firsthand what is going on. As we are also going to do that into Benin, which is the land of our forefathers. The land of our forefathers. So you can look for some announcement in the future for travel to Fondeblanc in Haiti and then to Benin in Africa. We got to basically get in touch with our roots and with things that really concern us and really things that do really meaningful development, sustainable development as is happening in Fontainebleau, and then we will basically tie back into our roots when we go to Benin. So that's coming. You watch for some announcement in the future. All right, so those things are out of the way. Let's talk about tomorrow's funeral. We lost one of our mammoth intellectual in Haiti, Frank Etienne. He died last week, and so he was doing well, pretty well, and he was not sick. But again, you know, he was 89, 88 years old, so he he left us. He left us, and then the funeral is going to be tomorrow. Tonight there's a wake, but tomorrow is the funeral, and then there's gonna be a Zoom link for the funeral. So if you want to have the Zoom link, you can text me on WhatsApp. My number is 704-577-3109, and then I would send you the link to the Zoom or to Facebook, where you can attend to the funeral live tomorrow at 7:30 in the morning. I plan on watching it, and if you'd like to do that, also if you have the time, not going to work, check give me a text, and then I will send you the information. You can also join with me. All right, so now okay, so we are doing pretty well, and when it comes to time. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna dive into wokeism, and we are going to, if there is time, we will play our song, but if there's no time, we will just end. Um, if our subject goes beyond 9 p.m., then we are going to part ways with the radio station, but we will still be on both on we'll still be on YouTube, we'll still be on Facebook, and we will be on X. So let's plan on staying with me through the this fascinating subject of wokeism. So having done that, having said that, I think we're ready to go. We're ready to go. So, but before we go into wokeism, there is something else that I want to. There's a stage that I want to set, because I'm going to be using it in wokeism. And the stage that I want to set tonight is the Krasnovian world. Krasnovian world. What is that? Right? But we are going to step into a world of political intrigue, psychological manipulation, and a concept so powerful, once you understand it, you'll never look into geopolitics the same way again. This is the Krasnovian world. How did it start? Well, it started last week. Well, it didn't start last week. It was some event that will allow us to leverage the Krasnovian world started last week. Okay, something started last week. What was it? Well, last Thursday, there's a former KGB officer. KGB is the equivalent of the CIA in Russia and in the former Soviet Union. KGB. So a former KGB officer by the name of Alno Musayev dropped a bombshell on Facebook. And that sent shockwaves through social media. He claimed that, he didn't give any proof of that, by the way. Let's say that. He claimed that Donald Trump had been cultivated by the KGB since 1987, and his code name was Krasnov, or Krasnov. So there you have it. There you have it. Krasnov. So Donald Trump was cultivated. So says Anu Musayev. He was cultivated since 1987. And his code name was Krasnov. I mean, this is amazing. This is. I mean, you can't think of how impactful this thing would be if it were to be true. You will recall that in 1989 was the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. And that was a moment that was cemented in history by Ronald Reagan when he said, and he stood before the world, and declared, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall." Now that event symbolized the triumph of democracy over authoritarianism. Authoritarianism, I'm sorry. But Musayev claims that Trump was cultivated since 1987. So if that is true, think of it. It would suggest that the Russian had the foresight to place a mole in America before the collapse of the Soviet Union. And that would lay the groundwork for a future resurgence. This is better than the movie. This would be so powerful. It would be such a powerful narrative for Russia. It would be really, really, really clever if they had the forethought to cultivate this guy in 1987, right before the fall of the Berlin Wall. Reagan died a hero in his country, right? And his counterpart, Gorbachev, he died recently. He died as a pariah. So that's a stark reflection on how their respective nations viewed the events of the Cold War. So we are putting together a conceptual tool, a conceptual framework, and we call that framework the Krasnov grid, Agent Krasnov grid. Because if we have a situation where a head of state was manipulated by a foreign power, that would show us a reversal of fortune for the US and Russia. Because Putin would be hailed as a hero in Russia for doing this brilliant move, while Mr. Trump could be seen as a villain for betraying his country, if it's true. And again, we don't know whether it's true or not. We have to say that all the time. Do we have the proof? No, we don't. We don't have a proof, but we have a framework to take a look at this stunning claim, and we're going to take a look at it in future endeavors. Not tonight, but do we have a way of knowing whether Musayev's claims are true? No. Unless he provides some proofs, then we can't know. We can't know that it was true. But what we can do is analyze the plausibility of such scenario. And for that, we turn to our conceptual framework called the Krasnov grid, a method of assessing whether an individual exhibits traits that would make him a useful pawn for foreign power. That's the Krasnov grid. And why does the president fit this perfect test case? Now, here's what's striking. When we apply the analysis of the Krasnov grid to Trump, there is nothing in his character that immediately refutes the idea that he could be used by a foreign adversary. Nothing in his character. Now, contrast that with historical figures like John McCain, Tommy Duckworth, General Milley, General Kelly, or George Washington. These people have a moral fabric and patriotism and personal discipline that would make them nearly impossible to manipulate. So if you were telling me or telling the American people that these guys were manipulated, they said no, heck no, they can't be. But with Trump, the exact opposite is true. Everything about his personality aligns with the intelligence agency look for. Everything in his personality aligns with what intelligence agencies look for when identifying someone who can be influenced. Let's check them out. Let's check them briefly. There's more than that, but let's give you a few. An ego, easily manipulated by flattery. See that? Then there's an absence of moral conviction. Then there's a disregard for institutional norms. Then there's a history of financial entanglements. And above all, a self-interest so extreme that the line between personal gain and national betrayal becomes irrelevant. This is scary. How his personality fits the scenario of an agent being manipulated by foreign power. And there's more, way more, that would buttress the idea that was outlined by Agent Musayev last week. And that was what brought us to bring this model, the Krasnovian model. So Krasnovian is an adjective. Think about it. What is more effective in placing an agent of influence at the head of a world power? This is mind-boggling. What is more? Krasnovian. What is more Krasnovian than watching a leader of the free world parrot talking points of an adversary, weaken his country, and destroy alliances, all without needing to take orders? And that, my friend, is the Krasnovian world. The Krasnovian world. That's what we're talking about. And this conceptual framework that we're putting together, we lay out the case for the plausibility of what Agent Musayev dropped in Facebook last week. We're not going to say it happened, but we're going to say the shoe fits. the shoe fits. Bob Marley once said, if the shoe fits, then wear it. We're not gonna say that, but the shoe fits. We're gonna lay out our case. We're gonna look at the conceptual grid, which will show that it is a distinct possibility by looking at the character of the individual. And like we say, this is the Krasnovian world. But tonight, it's not about the Krasnovian world. It ties into wokeism, and this is why we needed to debut the Krasnovian world on Dimansyon. But we are going to dive into wokeism. We're going to talk about the origins of wokeism and how it evolved, and how it ties into political manipulation, which is also a subject that is dear to the Krasnovian grid. Political manipulation. There are few words in modern discourse that have traveled such a tumultuous road as woke. Depending on who you ask, it represents social progress, cultural tyranny, or a meaningless buzzword co-opted for political gain. But one thing is undeniable. Woke has become a battleground. It has been embraced, vilified, and weaponized to serve various agendas. And that's what we're going to see tonight. We're going to ask, what did woke mean from the go? What did it mean? What did it mean originally? How did it become a political cudgel? And most importantly, is the war over wokeism real, or just another example of manipulation? Or a Krasnovian strategy designed to divide and weaken societies? Very, very important questions that we will seek to answer in this show. Now, woke started as a great take on life. Long before politicians and cultural warriors latched onto it, woke was a simple yet powerful term in Black American communities. Woke was a warning. From the 1930s to the 60s, it was a warning. If we retrace earlier non-use of the word, that leads us to a musician called Lead Belly in the 1930s. He had an interview, and in that interview, he advised Black people traveling in the Jim Crow's South to stay woke. Be careful. It was a warning to remain aware of racial dangers. And further on, the term would gain momentum in the civil rights era and civil rights movements. It evolved to mean vigilance against racial injustice. It was not just a word then. Woke meant a survival tool in the 60s. You will recall that the biggest casualty of the civil rights movement was MLK. Although he was woke, he stayed woke. That was not enough. But for others, woke was a survival tool. And as the years go by, let's fast forward to the 2010s area. In that area, woke will resurface in the context of the Black Lives Matter movement. It became a rallying cry for awareness, not just about race, but about gender, about LGBTQ plus rights, climate change, and economic inequality. So all these issues were under the umbrella of woke. And corporations, celebrities, media, they latched on to the term, they adopted it, and soon wokeism transformed from an activist slogan into a pop culture brand. Then something changed. Something changed from there on. A beautiful tool for racial inequality, for survival from an area where life was cheap, life of the black people were cheap. It was transformed into something else, something quite other. After that move, after work was used as an umbrella term to capture not only race but gender, but also LGBTQ plus rights, climate change, and economic inequality. That was an opportunity for the right to dismantle it. was a nice gift given to conservatives to hide behind some issues to get rid of woke. Let's talk about now the backlash. There was a backlash, there was both a backlash and also weaponization of woke. Because it was no longer about awareness, it entered the political battlefield. I said that many times, and I think it's worth repeating. I said it in French. I'm going to say it in French, I'm going to try to translate it in English. I said that la politique est un jeu de con. La politique est un jeu de con. Politics is a con game. It's a game for imbeciles. It's a game for morons. Because what is done in politics is many times moronic. And that also ties into George Orwell. So it's an Orwellian world. The Orwellian world ties into the Krasnovian world, by the way. Anyways, so we are basically building a framework here that should be very powerful when it's done. But anyways, politics is a game of con. It's a game of imbeciles. It's a game of morons. Let me open a quick parenthesis that was not planned into this program to tell you how politics is a game of morons. Obama wanting to replace a Supreme Court justice proposed Merrick Garland. You know, it was 3 months into the last year of his second term. 3 months. So there was 9 months left. Mitch McConnell said, over my dead body, you won't be able to do this. This is outrageous. That you only have 9 months left and then you want to ram into our throat a new Supreme Court justice? No! Leave it for the next president. 9 months, you're done. Let the people choose somebody and that person will bring this new justice. And because McConnell had the majority in the Senate, he never brought up Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland was waiting. He waited. There was never any hearing to confirm him. So McConnell blocked him. Now, fast forward to the last year of Trump's presidency. The same McConnell for whom it was an outrage to bring somebody 9 months into the 9 months before the end of somebody's term. Now there was 2 months left in Trump's term. The same the same McConnell said, "Yeah, let's put her. It's plenty of time to have a hearing and bring her on." So again, he had the majority in the Senate, so he basically worked the hearings for Amy Coney Barrett, and then she was rammed through the throat of Senate, and then 2 weeks before Trump's term ended, Amy Coney Barrett was placed at the Supreme Court. She was sworn in, and she was a Supreme Court justice. Tell me that politics is not a game of con. Tell me that. There you go. So I'm just gonna close the parenthesis. Okay. So woke also became woke entered the political battlefield. And when that happens, you know that there will be some silly stuff going on, for sure. And in 2016 through now, woke became a pejorative word. The shift came when critics, mostly conservatives, they began using woke as an insult. It was no longer about social justice. Woke became a synonym of the radical left ideology, extreme left. Woke became synonymous to cancel culture. You're gonna cancel somebody. And many have been canceled. Woke became synonymous to thought policing. Basically, polish your thought and try and prevent you from thinking a certain way, or at least convey what you are thinking. Now, our guy here, the governor, DeSantis, he made anti-woke rhetoric the core message of his campaigns and his governance too. Because he says Florida is where work comes goes to die. Florida is where work goes to die. This is a very charged statement here that we don't have time to really dive into. Because also that ties into DEI for sure, of course. The work is larger, but DEI ties into work. But also, critical race theory is also an issue there that we will touch on one of these days. Critical race theory. So is the 1619 project. All these things, well, they can be woven into wokeism. They have some synergy with wokeism. So DeSantis says that Florida is a place where work comes to die. Right? And they kill it here. It's true. Kill it in Florida. Before Trump killed it in federal government. But it wasn't only the conservatives that had a pushback. Some moderates also had some pushback. Some moderate liberals and even progressives, they started questioning whether wokeism has gone too far. What is about justice? Was it about justice or was it about a moral purity test? Were people being cancelled for genuine harm or for minor infractions? The cancel culture was alive and well at some point. You said one little thing and they canceled you. So moderates were asking themselves, has woke gone too far? And another question that they asked was, has social activism become a dogma where dissent was not tolerated? If you disagree with something, if you have some objections with something, then you are viewed as the enemy, and that is not tolerated. They can wage the cancel stick at you, and pretty soon they can cancel you. So wokeism entered a new phase. Hyperpolarization. Both extremes are claiming their right. And the real issues are neglected. So let's be clear about something. We don't have a universal definition of woke. Of course, you know the original meanings, and they still apply to it. But the problem is, as soon as you say woke today, you are labeled. You are labeled, depending on whom you're talking to. But it means different things for that reason. It means different things to different groups. But let's look at how the left views woke. For many progressives, woke simply means being socially conscious. To them, wokeism is just awareness of injustice. Awareness of injustice. And they say critics of wokeism are just resisting progress. And when they accuse people of wokeism, they are trying to silence you. That's what the left is thinking. They're trying to silence real conversation about inequality. But that's the left. And to some degree, There is truth to that, and that's the tragedy. There is truth to that. But for the right, woke represents a radical shift in Western values, a shift in values. Now this is weighty, a shift in values. And to the right, wokeism is it's funny. Wokeism is cultural Marxism disguised as activism. That's, this is, they don't play it. They don't play it. So for them, for the rights, it is cultural Marxism disguised as activism. Because why? It prioritizes identity over merits and feelings over facts. Is that Marxism? I'm not sure. They play with the words. They use the words quite quite lightly. And they say it's not about justice, it's about control. So people who are claiming woke, 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 they're trying to control you. There is some truth to that also. We could not deny that the cancel culture is uh, many times unreasonable. We cannot ignore that sometimes identity takes priority over merits. It's not all the time. It's not all the cases. But the problem is when the right looks at it, it uses that broad brush to say that's what it is, and they conveniently forget all the good facts about it. And this is also a tragedy. Now, the moderate view is that there is equality. There's a need for equality. They believe in equality. But also they recognize the excesses of performative activism. And I think I would find myself in the moderate camp. But I'm going to tell you right now. There are excesses in performative activism. They ask, can we push change without alienating people? And now, for the moderate, I'm going to answer yes. I'm going to answer. No, I'm not going to answer yes. I'm going to say that real change will alienate people. Changes that are legitimate will alienate people for sure. So that question to me is irrelevant from the moderates. But they also ask this question: does every issue need to be politicized? And ask the question: has wokeism been hijacked into something else entirely? I'm not sure. Because the issues are still there. There's still racial inequality. There's still systemic inequality in the system. So therefore, we need some sort of wokeism to fight it. So even the moderates, I think they're going a little to the right. Let's say that. So the key question is this debate about woke, or is it just another distraction? That's a key question. Is this debate about woke, or is it just another distraction? Now let's tie in wokeism as a Krasnovian strategy. Now, this is something that is original. We'll not find this analysis anywhere else. because the word Krasnovian, we coined it. We coined it here. So we are going to we are going to we should we should uh, we should protect that word. There's a word for it. It's not a patent. It's a trademark. There you go. We should trademark Krasnovian strategy. Krasnovian. The word Krasnovian. Okay. Anyways, um, let's bring in the Krasnovian perspective into this. And this is where the discussion takes a turn, because when you look at the woke debate through the lens of Krasnovian manipulation, you start to see a pattern. A pattern. And the pattern of manipulation. And the question to be asked is, who benefits from the woke wars? Because whenever you see a cultural war, you ask yourself, who profits? Who gains power? You know, politicians, they weaponize the woke debate to rally their base from both sides of the aisle. They weaponize woke to grab hold of their base, to bring their base, to energize them. Really, that's what they do. As politicians, right? Like I said, remember what I said. Politics is a game of con. It's a game of imbeciles, because politicians take everybody as an imbecile, as a moron, from what they tell you. Let me open up a little parenthesis here also, to show how politics is a game of morons. When they brought Colin Powell to lie about the Iraq War, France was a little cool about going to war with Iraq. France wanted some guarantees that Saddam Hussein had WMD, weapons of mass destruction. So they said, show us. I mean, there was some inspectors who were looking for those weapons. A guy named Hans Blix was the chief inspector, and he was saying, give me some more time to look, because we haven't found anything yet. But George Bush said, no more time. It's time to go to war. You are either with me or you're against me. France says, I can't do that. I won't go to war like that. What did we see? Well, there was a guy named Bob Ney. Bob Ney, a congressman, who would later be arrested for fraud, let's say that. Bob Ney went to the cafeteria of Congress and he says, okay, we don't want to do anything with France. Okay, now we're going to rename French fries freedom fries. Remember, it was a lie that Colin Powell, told UN. But yet, Bob Ney was so patriotic that he wanted to rename French fries freedom fries. Tell me that politics is not a game of morons. Politicians look at you and they think that they can manipulate you because you want to see. You are dull. You are dull. You've been lobotomized. Therefore, you cannot think for yourself. They have to manipulate you. Anyways, let me close the parenthesis. So politicians weaponize the woke debate to rally their base, to energize their base. But they're not alone. Corporations, they milk. Let's say that again. Russia and China, they exploit woke and anti-woke sentiments at the same time. To divide the West. Russia has had some troll farms, where they can basically uh, push out some issues that will make people jump. Those troll farms, that are using Facebook and other social media, those troll farms has been caught posting both pro woke and anti woke narratives on social media. They push them both. Why? It's a divide and conquer strategy. They push each other at each other's throat, and then they sit back and enjoy the show. So, woke is also weaponized by foreign adversaries. So that's the Krasnovian take here. Fully into the Krasnovian take. Um, let's talk about some consequences of the woke wars. The culture of war over wokeism is no longer a battle of ideas. It's no longer that. It has gone beyond that. It has become costly, performative, see, putting on a show, make believe. And often self-defeating struggle. And the consequences, they extend beyond social media outrage and enter the sphere of economics, law, and policy. You'll see that. Let's take a look at some examples of that war. You'll recall that there was a Bud Light boycott, right? Bud Light. Why did we have a Bud Light boycott? Well, Bud Light partnered with a transgender influencer by the name of Dylan Mulvaney. Dylan Mulvaney. And they partnered for a social media campaign. So that's seemingly small sponsorship caused it triggered a massive backlash from conservative consumers because they saw this as woke marketing being forced upon them. What was the result? The fallout was a nationwide conservative-led boycott against Bud Light, and that think Bud Light sales. Bud Light lost $6 billion. From the parent company, Anheuser-Busch. $6 billion. There was a counter boycott from the progressive. And guess who was the target of the counter boycott? It was Bud Light. Because after the first backlash, Bud Light distanced itself from the influencer. So they dropped the influencer like a hot potato. Because because the progressives saw it as caving to right-wing pressure. So they boycotted Bud Light. So Bud Light caught it both ways. Bud Light alienated both conservatives and progressives. And that shows that when corporations try to appease everyone, you won't please anyone. So who won? Who won that? The public didn't win that. It was a distraction. The LGBTQ didn't win anything. They didn't get any gain from the controversy. But they were pushing transgender, transgender. And then pushing it caused Bud Light to partner with that guy. And nothing is gained. Bud Light didn't gain a red cent from it. As a matter of fact, it lost billions, both from conservatives and progressive. Crazy. And there's more. There's more. There was a grudge match again between DeSantis and Disney. You'll recall that. DeSantis, he enacted parental rights in education. So he had an education act about parental rights. By the way, we want to tell the people on the radio that we are going to part company with you on top of the hour, and there are 3 minutes left, so I might as well tell you goodbye. If you want to follow this discussion, you can always go to YouTube, and you'll follow it. You can go to YouTube or Facebook or X. You'll find us there, and you can continue this discussion. Okay, so Ron DeSantis, he enacted parental rights. He had an act, and the critics said that this act was called "Don't Say Gay," "Don't Say Gay," and in that act it restricted discussions on sexual orientation and gender identity in schools. So what did Disney do? Because Disney is one of the largest employers in Florida, right? So Disney publicly opposed that law. So DeSantis got mad. So he retaliated against Disney, and he stripped Disney from its special tax district. And he said that was fighting Disney. I mean, DeSantis said that was fighting woke corporations. So Disney fought back legally, and that led to a prolonged court battle. And now, Floridian taxpayers are footing the bill for the legal war. And then, funny thing is, Disney continues to do business in China. Funny, huh? China has a lot of human rights issues, a lot of violations in human rights. But Disney is doing business in China, and we call that hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of cultural activism. So, who won that war? Florida didn't win that war. It lost tax revenues from Disney's halted expansion plans, because Disney was expanding in Florida. Now Disney said, "Okay, you doing that? Okay, I'm not gonna expand in Florida anymore. I'm just gonna go to California." But Disney didn't win. Disney is entangled in a costly legal battle. DeSantis didn't win because he sent his political capital unnecessarily, fighting and addressing unreal issues where he could spend his energy fighting real issues. So both sides didn't win anything. Now there's another interesting one that we want to talk about. It's the Latinx controversy. Latinx controversy. You know, this is a case where wokeism is alienating the very people it is targeting to help. So this is pretty much a case of shooting yourself in the foot. The progressive activists and academics pushed the Latinx label. It's a gender neutral alternative to Latino and Latina. So they didn't want to use Latino for men and Latina for women. They said, no, let's use Latinx to include everybody. Then we're going to be good. The intent was to be inclusive for non-binary individuals. But it backfired spectacularly. Because Pew Research in 2020 found that 97% of Latinos reject the term and only 3% actually used it. So many Latinos, when we say Latinos like that, we mean both Latinos and Latinas. Many Latinos, they see Latinx as a term that is forced upon them by white progressives, disconnected from their culture. That's what happened. Let me open up on another parenthesis, right? Obama went to Africa, to Senegal, and he was pushing gay marriage on Macky Sall. Macky Sall had to set him straight. Macky Sall said, man, you cannot come here and impose that on us. You can do it in America, but you cannot come to Senegal and do it like that. You can't. Doesn't like that. We have our own ways of doing things. So, the same way, and then I'm going to close the parenthesis, right? Same way, Latinos, they see Latinx as a term that is used, that is imposed on them by white progressives, disconnected from their culture. You don't know the culture, and yet you think that you're going to give them a term for them to use. Crazy. Because Spanish grammar has both male and female pronouns. They're not gender neutral. The language, the grammar is not gender neutral. So are you going to change the grammar? Are you going to tell Spanish people, okay, now stop using Latinos, stop using Latinas, okay? I have this new beautiful word for you, Latinx. Crazy. It was forcing linguistic changes to alienate native speakers rather than fostering inclusivity. It was forcing something on them. Who won? Nobody won. Not the Latino community. They never asked for a new term. Why in the world are you giving them a new term? Sitting where you are in America. Progressives certainly didn't win. Because their efforts backfired. The language did not win. The language did not ask for a new word. And it became a battleground for political performance. Um, let's quickly take a look at the good and the bad of wokeism. You've seen it from what we've said before. If you were following this discussion here, you probably have seen some good sides and some bad sides of wokeism. But let's put them in a sharper focus here. Um, Wokeism has been a force of change, um, undeniably. It was. It started as such in the 1930s. It became a survival tool in the civil rights era. It became also a way to embrace everybody. But then something changed. That's when the dictatorship of the left started pushing things down people's throat. And that led to excess in many areas. But let's break down the benefits and the downsides of the movement. Wokeism brings awareness of social injustice, brings it into sharper focus. Black Lives Matter, Me Too. They have exposed the systemic injustices in the system. Police brutality, sexual harassment to unprecedented level have been exposed, which is good. It's also fostered corporate accountability. Customers now demand more ethical behavior from corporation, which is good. Companies are forced to rethink racial branding. No, I mean not racial branding. Racist branding. Like Aunt Jemima, they're not gonna use that anymore. Uncle Ben's and all the practices. So that brings these things into focus. There's a greater representation in the media. Like Hollywood is advertising and publishing publishing houses have embraced diversity, which is good. Because once overlooked communities are now seeing their stories told on a wider scale. So that's certainly good. Stronger protection of LGBTQ plus rights. While we don't advocate it ourselves because of our beliefs, but we don't advocate discriminating against LGBTQ rights people. So you should not discriminate against anybody. There is also a good side, workplace and educational diversity initiatives. Like we've had programs focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion, like DEI, which is good stuff. We've had a show last night in Creole where we discussed DEI, and that helped increase the representation in leadership roles across industries, which is good, which is very good, very good. The glass ceiling has been broken in many places. Still needs to be broken in other places, but the glass ceiling has been broken into many places. We've had women being university presidents, and that's good. We had minorities being university presidents. We have a Haitian that is the president of university in Texas, which is good, which is very good. So universities have implemented policies aimed at creating more inclusive spaces for all students. Again, that's very good. But where is the rub? Where is the other side of the coin? There is one for sure. One is cancel culture. social media social media outrage has led careers and reputations to be destroyed overnight. Overnight, you're cancelled and you're gone. And those were done over minor missteps. Um, Nuanced discussions often shut down in favor of ideological purity. You cannot voice objections to somebody's view. They are going to shut you down, make you pay dearly for it. Corporate wokeism becomes performative activism. Many companies, they profit off woke messaging. They profit off woke messaging, but they don't do anything of substance for actual social change. It's just performative. Playing for the like this, like this in French. Playing for the gallery. You know, Nike supported Colin Kaepernick, right? They supported him, but yet Nike still had plenty of sweatshops. Basically, they are talking from both sides of their mouths, pretty much. Performative activism. Wokeism is an overreach in language and social norms. People are very particular about pronouns, and if you don't give them their pronouns, it's as if committed uh, you committed an offense worthy of the death penalty. To enforce new pronouns, people tell you my pronouns are this and that and the other, and that can be seen as authoritarian because you're pushing these things on people. You know, they they have the term now for people for mother. Instead of mother, they say birthing person. Birthing person. They don't want to use mother because mother stand in contrast with father. So birthing person can be a mother, can be a father. See where we're going with this? But even the cancel culture is also selective. I mean, the outrage is selective. Some celebrities and politicians get canceled permanently, while others bounce back rather quickly. Uh, there is an over focus on identity instead of solutions. There is a disproportionate emphasis on race, gender, and identity politics, and that distracts from economic or policy-based solution. Example, there are some debates over microaggression, and those take center stage. And issues like housing, affordability, education, and healthcare remain unaddressed. So we major on the minors. And this is what wokeism brings into the mix, majoring on the minors. So let's talk about what does wokeism stand for us as Haitian, and that's will bring us to the bottom of the hour. How does wokeism impact Haitian American? It's complex as anything that has to do with woke. It's complex because it presents both opportunities and contradictions for us. And this is why I said it's a rose with lots of thorns. On the one hand, it has elevated discussions about racial justice, which is good for us, historical oppression, which is good for us. In doing the research on this, I came to something that is mind-boggling. Do you know that slavery in Haiti or Saint Domingue predates slavery in America by more than a century? I never thought about that. The data was there, but I never thought about it. Because the first slaves got to Saint Domingue in 1503. Whereas the first slave got into America in 1619. And this is why we have the 1619 Project. More than a century. So wokeism brings focus on social issues, historical oppression, and the role of systemic inequalities. And these issues are deeply relevant to us, Haitian Americans. And the Haitian American experience certainly resonates well with us. But by the same token, the way woke ideology manifests itself in political and cultural discussions often contradicts the principle of self-determination. You are thinking for being. Condescendence, paternalism, all these things are woven into the way that wokeism gets into the discussion for us Haitian Americans. Self-agency. Those are being stepped over in the discussion. So this raises the critical question. Can a Haitian American embrace the awareness promoted by wokeism without falling prey into the ideological traps that undermines personal agency and national sovereignty? Important question. Important question. On the good hand, historical awareness. Woke discourse, acknowledges the lasting impact of colonialism, slavery, and foreign interference, into the issue into Haiti's history. I mean, neocolonialism, all that is brought into wokeism, so it's good. I mean, wokeism also people who pay attention to wokeism, who engage in it, they celebrate the Haitian Revolution, which is unique in world history. Say that unique. So they recognize the uniqueness of the Haitian Revolution in world history. And the conversation about reparation is also quite in the mix with wokeism. Reparation from France, because they extorted Haiti of wealth through the so-called independence debt. And that issue has gained more mainstream recognition through woke-leaning academic circles, which is good. And that also helps fight anti-blackness racism. Haitian Americans have faced racism and discrimination both from American society and even from some black American community due to stereotypes around Haitian identity. And woke is basically bringing awareness into this, and we'll talk about this in a little a little more focused way. Um, woke wokeism is challenging U.S. imperialism in Haiti, so that's some good issues that resonate well with us Haitian American. You know, woke activists often criticize American interventionism in Haiti, including the 1915 occupation of Haiti. So that's good. That's important for us. And the woke discussion. They highlight also how Western have exploited Haiti, and that has contributed into Haiti's instability. And that is countering the narrative, the mainstream narratives that blames Haiti problems solely on internal mismanagement. Heck no, it's just not us. I mean, yes, Haitians are responsible for our miseries, but yeah, the foreign hand is right there. And that's going on right now with the gangs. So woke stand on our side when it comes to these issues. Woke has defended Haitian migrants, TPS holders. They called out the horrific mistreatment of Haitian migrants in the U.S. Mexico border in 2021 under Biden, where mounted border patrols were lassoing Haitians and whipping Haitians who were asylum seekers. So there's no question that these are positive aspects of woke for Haitian Americans. But there's also a darker side, and let's talk about the darker side of wokeism for Haitian Americans. Because sometimes wokeism clashes with our values. It frames us as victims. It pushes the idea of systemic oppressions, and and then Haitians have a different cultural ethos, in the sense that we celebrate our resilience over victimhood. We fight it back, although the guys are doing it, but we fight back. We fight back against people who are victimizing us. But wokeism always shows us as victim, but we are also resilient. So that gets lost into the fray. So that's important to mention, because the Haitian Revolution was not about seeking repression from France. It was about self-liberation. And that proved that we can do things for ourselves. So, in that sense, wokeism is not good. Is not good for Haitian Americans. There's also this selective outrage. No, woke activists they fight for racial justice, but sometimes they ignore Haiti unless it fits a political agenda. If it helps them in their fight, then they're gonna do it. But if it doesn't, they're just gonna ignore us. Okay. Now this is one that is very important. a bad side of wokeism for Haitians. Very often, Haitian Americans, academics, are overlooked, both in academia and in the media. Haitian Americans have some significant contributions. I mentioned that we have a president of a university. We have Dr. Ford, who is the main doctor at So we have quite a brilliant people who are doing brilliant stuff here. And not too long ago, we had our the Harvard president, right, who was cancelled by the right, by the way. So, oftentimes we are overlooked in academia. One guy that was a powerhouse, Michel Wolf Touillot, who is no longer with us, is one of the most influential Haitian intellectuals in the study of history and anthropology. But yet, his Haitian roots are rarely emphasized in discussions of decolonization and historical narratives. Michel Wolf Touillot is the brother of Lionel Trouillot. One chose to stay in Haiti and push and fight in Haiti. One chose to come to America, but yet the same brilliance, the same pedigree, but yet Michel Wolf Touillot is seldom acknowledged as Haitian. There are others, but in the interest of time, we're going to skip them and go to another one. Let's talk about Marjorie Judith Vincent. Marjorie Judith Vincent won Miss America in 1991. And it was a historic moment. But yet, her reception among Black Americans, Black media, and internal circles was lukewarm at best. I think when she won, I was looking to see when Oprah would invite her. I don't think Oprah ever invited Marjorie Judith Vincent to her show. When Vanessa Williams, who would get into a scandal later on, won, it was celebrated. And there was another one a Black American who won, that was celebrated. But Marjorie Judith Vincent, no, it was not so. Marjorie Judith Vincent was born in Haiti. She was the first Haitian American to win Miss America. She was not only beautiful, but she was an accomplished student, a great piano player who dazzled audiences during Miss America, the contest. I remember her playing Moonlight Sonata in that contest. But yet, her victory that should have been celebrated as a milestone for Haitian representation in American media, but it was not done. It was a lack of enthusiasm from Black Americans. Black media at that time, there was a visible, a noticeable absence of celebration, and some even will subtly distance themselves from distance her. Well, they say that they distanced her from the African American experience, so she was not Black enough. She was not Black enough. So Haitian Americans always, so often, they face exclusion from African American cultural space because of that, because they're not being seen as Black enough. There was an anti-Haitian immigrant in the 90s, right, end of 80s, 90s, to the stigma of AIDS, HIV. Because there is a lack of Haitian media infrastructure in the United States, so our issues are not are not given the focus that they should. So wokeism sometimes does not help. Does not help. And I will say to end, and American president, first black president, Barack Obama, made a humongous gaffe. Let's say that. Humongous gaffe when he failed to acknowledge the Haitian Revolution. He never did. He never visited Haiti. Haiti should have been a place of pilgrimage for Obama, the first black president. Obama brought on gay marriage. To him, that was a great accomplishment. Obama went to South Africa and eulogized Nelson Mandela. I remember him very well saying, "We will never find somebody like that, like Nelson Mandela." I remember that like it was today. But when it comes to the Haitian Revolution, that also we will never find something like that. When it comes to the Haitian Revolution, not a word, not a peep. That's also a downside of wokeism against us, Haitian Americans. Obama is part and parcel to Michel Martelly being the president of Haiti. Let's say that. Some people may not like that. But he was. He gave Haiti as a consolation prize to Hillary Clinton, whom he beat in the election. So he gave it to her. And she went and did whatever she wanted. Bill Clinton apologized for destroying Haiti's rice in the Artibonite Valley. People say, "Oh, wow, that's nice. He's doing his mea culpa." No, he wasn't doing the mea culpa. He was getting ready to be put over the administration of the hurricane of the earthquake fund called the CIRH, and it was a fiasco. Wokeism sometimes hurts us. Sometimes hurts us. So we will stop here. Because we are cognizant of your time. So the Haitian American identity in the work world puts us at a crossroads because there are some good stuff, there are some bad stuff. We need to be vigilant. We need to be smart about it. Because wokeism has some good side and it has some bad sides. Wokeism is a double-edged sword for us. And the key is balance. Balance. We should fight for racial justice without embracing radical woke dogma. There you go. Fight for racial justice without embracing radical woke dogma. We should advocate for Haiti's sovereignty without falling for Western social experiments. We should challenge systemic bias while upholding Haitian values of resilience and self-agency, self-determination. We should. At the end of the day, Haitian Americans must navigate wokeism with discernment, embracing the good and rejecting the excesses. And because if Haiti has taught the world anything, it is this. Nous c'est oiseaux, nous plier, mais nous pas casser. We are reeds, we bend, but we do not break. For Dimansyon, Marc-Arthur Pierre-Louis. And the last thing that we're going to do before we leave you, we are going to experiment with a new format in our shows. On Mondays, we're going to have 3 languages in the show. We're going to have English, French, and Creole. On Tuesday, we're going to have French. On Wednesday, we're going to have Creole. On Thursday, like today, we're going to have English. And on Friday, it's wide open. It's wide open. This new format, we'll see whether that sticks, because the linguistic aspect of Dimansyon is critical for us, and we got to reach out to a lot more people than we do. Goodbye tomorrow for another show. Marc-Arthur Pierre-Louis. Bye-bye.